Do you like stomping on orphans in your spare time? Then this book might be for you. I'm not lying when I said I was reconsidering my life choices after reading this novel when it came to reviewing books. Hello and welcome back to my channel, Read Good, Draw Bad, where we love to read really good and draw pretty darn bad. I'm here on a political mission. It's more biased than Paula Deen's love of butter. This book review is going to require you to really love reading A Young Girl's Diary. And by the way, it's not a juicy filled secret diary. It's just a kind of boring, like girl who doesn't write very well diary. My mission today is to help you understand how much I dislike the book we're reading today. Because today we are reading The Death of the Heart by Elizabeth Bowen. I hope you enjoy bad people with bad manners doing bad, viciously cruel things to young girls who are orphaned. And let me tell you, when I say I don't ever want to read A Young Girl's Diary ever again, I have zero interest in like sad, soppy young girl love feelings and diaries. I don't know, it doesn't appeal to me. In case you didn't know, I'm doing a reading challenge where I'm reading the Modern Library's top 100 novels of the 20th century. You can find more information in the description below. I'm definitely climbing this list. It's one of my goals, my New Year goals, to climb this list a little faster, but we'll see how far I get. Anyways, let's get into the TLDR on this book, because I know you guys are going to want a summary of this girl's journal. Death of the Heart by Elizabeth Bowen could have been called Insufferable People Living Insufferable Lives. Enjoy. If you don't hate everyone and perhaps everything in the world, by the time you're done reading this novel, I'm not sure we read the same novel. But as we say in jolly old England, keep calm and keep reading on. This book is about the main character, Portia Quain. Now, Portia has had terrible circumstances where her super rich, super old dad dies. And this unfortunately makes her super now rich, super irresponsible young mother take her everywhere all over the world and just stay in hotels and have a good time. The early days of Portia's life reads kind of like if you watch The Housewives of New York, but the 1920s version. Because instead of going to school or having normal young girl experiences, the mom, who needs someone to keep her company while she travels to every rich location that she can find by boat or plane and spend all her dead husband's money, she needs someone who's a lot of fun and just thinks she's the best. Portia is not really a real young girl, but instead she was raised by a mother who is incapable of raising a child and a father who is rich, old, and frankly now just dead. However, this doesn't already sound sad enough to you. Eventually, even the party-going mom of Portia dies, and I assume that's from a drug overdose. Once Portia's mother dies, Portia is shipped off back to jolly old England to go live with her half-brother who she's never met, 36-year-old Thomas Quain, and his insufferable socialite wife, Anna. And boy, did I really hate Anna in this book, and she just gets worse as the book gets on, but anyways, more about that later. And this is exactly where the book starts, where we find Portia dropped in the lap of a couple who doesn't know what to do with a young child and has no room for a young person like this in their lives. Which, you know, sounds very British to me. I mean, it's like, oh, go get shipped off to the rich relatives during the war kind of book. I mean, I feel like a lot of books like that were written. Because you think the book is going to be how Portia discovers herself and starts understanding human feelings, but unfortunately, she's being now raised by two people who, for all other purposes, are British robots who just have manners and maybe no real feelings. And the nicest person in this book is actually the maid, Matchette, who doesn't even like her that much. Not exactly the family environment you want someone who's recently orphaned to grow up in. The last main character of this book is Eddie, Portia's love interest, that she meets through Anna, a young man who is incredibly infatuated and in love with not Portia, but with Anna. And Portia is madly in love with him, but Eddie is only really in love with himself. And it shows throughout the entire book as he sees Anna as a type of conquest and Portia as a stepping stone to get to Anna. And this is even more complicated as Eddie is a 23-year-old young man and Portia is 16, but because he seems like an older man to her, he seems so much more accomplished and interesting, but in this case is like 4 years older than her. But Portia has like no life experience and she's just really clueless throughout this entire book. Everyone in this book is chasing the wrong thing and caring about the wrong people and the wrong values. This book is just all messed up. Now, in terms of plot, this book's plot is broken into 3 major parts: the world, the flesh, and the devil, referencing the 3 enemies of the soul. In the first section of the book, Portia is thrown into a world of manners that she doesn't understand, and she tries to navigate the world so that she can fit in. In the second part of the book, in the flesh, Eddie is the main focus of Portia's life, and also the main focus of Portia's secret journal that ends up being not so secret, and Anna reads to her gay best friend, which is really awkward and strange. As her relationship with Eddie deepens, she goes for a holiday to the sea and starts to discover what other young people are like. In The Devil, the final act of the book, Portia learns that Anna read her diary, especially all of the parts where she was confused about how Anna and Thomas acted towards her, and especially about her relationship with Eddie, and because of this betrayal, runs away and tries to get married to another minor character in the book in hopes that she can salvage her life. By the end of the book, Portia figures out, I need to get away from these people that are psychologically harming me, because Anna didn't love her, and Thomas didn't love her, and then Eddie didn't love her, and now Portia's like, I gotta find somebody who at least reciprocates some kind of feelings for me. By the end of the book, even that doesn't happen. So that's sad. That's something that the author is really critiquing throughout this book. That's what you find at the end of this book. There's a critique. Now, thematically, this book is about a few things other than making me mad. This book is about the rules of British society and what leads to success in British upper middle class. Especially in The World, the author really wants to point out that if only Portia followed the rules of British society, she could find her own version of happiness and success. However, she has been raised by a delinquent mother and a father who is never there, and so she doesn't have any of the tools necessary to function in British society. Portia is like an alien visiting British society for the first time, and honestly makes too many mistakes for other people to accept her the way she is. This book thematically is also about manipulation and the loss of innocence in regards to said manipulation. Portia starts this book as an incredibly naive young girl, but who's hopeful that her life will turn for the better. And by the end of the book, she is still incredibly naive, but she is much less hopeful for her future. Kind of fits in with the whole death of the heart thing. For example, in the middle of the book, in the section on the flesh, she invites Eddie to come visit her and her new friends at her seaside vacation. And while she does so, she tells her friends, guys, I have this guy that you're just gonna love. He's so much better than me. Like, I'm okay, but compared to him, I'm trash. Instead of growing and learning to love the people she had just met around her, instead she becomes obsessed with having Eddie, the new love of her life, come to the seaside so that people can see how amazing that Eddie is. And if you've ever met a woman or a man who's obsessed with telling you about their new boyfriend or girlfriend, you know why this is awkward, and you probably know how this is going to turn out. So Eddie comes up to the seaside and completely messes up the social dynamic of the group, and you feel like an awkward bystander watching as Eddie tries to not fit in and get drunk and cause huge issues, and Portia tries to explain to everyone why Eddie is such a wonderful person, and absolutely no one gets it. That is like a major plot point in the book where Portia tries really hard to get people to like Eddie, and instead what happens is everyone just hates Portia. And it was so hard to read this entire section, and I had to stop several times because you can tell that Portia is trying so hard to get Eddie to like her, but the only thing that Eddie can respond with, because he doesn't respect Portia, is to respond with insults and with lies and manipulation to keep stringing Portia along for his benefit. These two themes of trying to do the right thing in British society, to obey all the rules and look and act a certain way, clash with the other theme of trying to have emotions and trying to not be manipulated by other people while expressing yourself in this really rigid society. As the two thematic points constantly go against each other. On the one hand, you're supposed to obey the rules of proper British society, but on the other hand, you have all these people doing terrible and cruel things, and how are you supposed to respond to them if you're not allowed to show emotion or to care about yourself or to express love for other people? Because only once in a while where Portia gets mad or truly upset, where she expresses what she wants, that people finally start to show their real selves. And when you see the real characters of Anna or Eddie or Thomas, you start to realize that none of these people are good people. Near the end of the book, Portia comes to the realization that she does not need to be loved or to love someone else, but just being socially accepted would be enough for her to continue to be happy existing. It's really, really a sad ending, and it really speaks to the problems of British society at the time and what was probably being experienced by young people who are trying to express themselves. Now, onto the review. This book is not that long compared to some books I read on this list. However, this book almost made me give up reading for about 3 months straight. It's just an incredibly hard book to read and not feel sad. If I wanted to make a comparison, I would say that this book is kind of like the Gilmore Girls in the roaring 1920s, but like Britishly off the rails, if you get my meaning. Anna definitely acts like Lorelai in the series as someone who's a socialite, fast talking, and has lots of thoughts. And Portia is somewhat like Rory, the rather dumb young person who's just trying to navigate her own life. There's just an extra layer of Britishness that just makes this story a bit sadder, a bit more boring, and a bit less comedic. This book is about emotional manipulation. And I mean, that is a lot like the Gilmore Girls when I think about it. Let me read you something. This is a passage of Eddie talking about reading Portia's diary because Portia wanted Eddie to read her diary to explain her true feelings to him. Eddie says, "I don't want you to write about you and me. In fact, you must never write about me at all. Will you promise me you will never do that?" "Why not?" Portia asks. "I just don't like the idea. I hate writing. I hate art. There's always something else there. I won't have you choosing words about me. If you ever start that, I shan't feel safe with you anymore. I like to think of you in a sort of way. I like to think of you going like a watch. But between you and me, there must never be any thoughts." And this shows you what Eddie is afraid of, and also that he's a scumbag. And if people figure out who the real Eddie is, who's not responsible, who is not faithful, someone who is not trustworthy, then he might lose his value in where he believes he is placed in sort of this upper crust of upper middle class. And if you've ever met a man like Eddie, you know that part of his power is the power he believes he holds over others. Because all the adults in this book are about appearances, as is fitting to their class. And the only one who ever speaks her mind truly is Machette, who is a servant, and she's allowed to speak her mind because her opinion at the end of the day doesn't really matter to the upper class. And the sad thing, of course, and this is about the death of the heart, is that there is no love for Portia in this book because she's sort of a writer's experiment of if you took a British child and removed their loving parents and removed their ability to understand British manners and just plopped them in the middle of really challenging social circumstances. And this leads me to believe that the author wanted us to think deeply and seriously about the value of different kinds of people in our lives, regardless of the role they play. Because there are moments of understanding, like what happens with various epiphanies for Portia in this book, where it could lead us down a road where we have success and love surrounding us, or it might lead us down a road like Portia, where instead of looking for love and continuing to hope for love, instead we say we will settle for fitting in with society because that's easier than trying to be loved and be cared about. I'd like to read you a quote from the Stoics, who I think had a very helpful perspective on love and friendship. If someone is incapable of distinguishing good things from bad and neutral things from either, well, how could such a person be capable of love? The power to love then belongs only to the wise man or woman. You're subject to sorrow, fear, jealousy, anger, and inconsistency. That's the real reason you should admit that you are not wise. Just ask whether they put their self-interest in externals or in moral choice. If it is in externals, you cannot call them friends, any more than you can call them trustworthy, consistent, courageous, or free. For where else is friendship found if not with fairness, reliability, and respect for virtue only? If you don't get rid of these negative attitudes, however, you may do all these things friends typically do together, like drink, board, and travel, and you can even have the same ancestry. But so can snakes. As usual, Greek wisdom comes through pretty loud and clear. Now, I don't recommend this book, but as part of this challenge, I said I would recommend another book that I think you could read in its place. And if you ask me, I think the best book you could read about British manners is The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. Because in this particular case, we talk about the importance of treating trivial things with major importance and the important things of life with a certain kind of triviality. And I like the juxtaposition that Oscar Wilde does in this play to try and make you understand why it's important to be earnest about small things. Because believe it or not, it's the little things that matter. And the little things often will lead you to the bigger things. Okay, I think that's enough dying inside with our dying hearts for 1 week. I hope you enjoyed this review, even if it wasn't my favorite book of this particular challenge. If you like this review, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you love this book, I'd love to know what you think about it. Please let me know in the comments below. Next time, we will be sailing away to a very different kind of social locale in 20th century Africa, in A Bend in the River by V.S. Naipaul. I enjoyed this book quite a bit, so I'm very eager to talk about it. So please look forward to that review. Well, I hope you're having an amazing week and diving into some amazing books this winter. So as always, stay curious, stay reading.